So we're getting ready to talk about buyer agency agreements, so this, we're getting into database and efficient stuff, things like that.
Database is jumping like.
Good.
See.
So this is through Myra, and this is Desmond, yeah. So, but I wanted to wait to talk, because I know you got a lot of new buyers coming in the pipeline. So again, this is something again about protecting your commission. So is there just about scripting or something specific about the document?
No, just all of the above. I've only had one client sign whatever.
Okay. Okay. So on the buyer agency agreement, you want to, the biggest thing I can give you is be as generic as possible, because especially on the description, you know, like Michael Vandergriff will put any real estate in the state of Indiana.
Okay.
They'll leave it that generic, because they may end up buying in a different town.
Okay.
They may buy a piece of land to do a new build. They may say, hey, I want this house, but they buy a lake house. So if you get too specific,
Okay.
so that's
So
where,
it can be that generic, any realistic. Okay.
so he wants to protect us.
Sure.
So the biggest thing is understanding that this is a two-way contract. It's a contract that you're getting 3% for representing them. But inside of that, you're making an agreement, you're gonna provide a level of service to your clients. Why that's in there is because you can't just go and get 30 of them signed. How's it going?
Thank you.
Good. 30 of them signed and never call them again, and then start going to them one by one and asking for your 3%. Because you didn't maintain uninterrupted time. You weren't sending them saved search results. You weren't the one showing them houses. So understand, this is a two-way agreement on these buyer agency agreements. Any contract that we send out, you should be reading. You should have a full understanding. And if you have any questions as you read through them, let me know. We'll dive into it. Now that brings us to the commission part. So you put in the commission or flat fee or whatever it is. So if it's a cheaper house, some people put in a flat dollar amount as opposed to percentage. Some people put in percentage. Reagan Stackhouse is the most stringent about this. Clients right out of the get-go that, hey, if this is 2.5% on the buyer side, you're gonna owe me that extra 0.5%. Because she was educating her clients up front, she really, I don't think she ever had any blowback. But she didn't drop it on her clients last minute. The biggest issues I've seen with buyer agency agreements is when we drop them on people last minute. In your first meeting or two, we should be proposing these to our clients and having them. And James, you actually brought this up a couple weeks ago, like, don't be offended if they tell you, hey, I don't feel comfortable signing this here, because you may have just met these people. You gotta show your value to them, and then they'll put lines. But if you just met the people, don't be offended if they won't sign it. That's just your opportunity. You gotta show them more value. To say, hey, this is where I wanna lock myself in contract.
But still add, I want to cite it. Let's revisit this, maybe after we've seen a few houses this week, after let's revisit this in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Because I don't know how long we're going to
Drag it out.
sort of spend time with them if they're not willing to commit.
That's fair.
I don't walk away, but there are some agents that say, hey, we've been out here 4 times, you're not wanting to commit. I don't want to waste it more like that, but we'll still keep trying.
The most contentious I ever saw again. And again, this is where you hear two sides of one story, but you know, it's a he said, she said kind of. So one of our agents got into a battle with a client that wanted to get out of an agreement and not use them anymore. So again, they did a mutual release out of the deal. But the client couldn't understand why he couldn't go use another agent. He said, well, we're under a buyer agency agreement. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, when I sent you the purchase agreement and when we looked at the order, it was like right in the middle. So it was like purchase agreement, disclosure, buyer agency agreement, lead-based paint, and buyers will just go quick, and they'll just fly through it. Well, this buyer claims nobody ever told them, you pulled one over on me because it was in the middle of all these documents and all this stuff. So, again, he said, she said, it doesn't really matter. Hiding in the middle of documents or a stack of big documents when they're getting ready to buy is not a good thing. It should be outside of that before. Let's address this now, if there's an issue. Great. don't just slide it in. Because that's just asking. for it. We ended up just letting it, I mean, it was getting really contentious and they just let the buyer finally go, but that buyer was not happy at all. Cause they felt like they got one slid in there, like, hey, we're signing all these documents. No, again, they can read every document they're signing. Most don't. This is why when I send offers to people, I'll text them an email, hey, here's a breakdown summary of our offer. You know, hey, read it, but since I know a lot of the times they know, I'll put that breakdown in there so that we have all these things.
What if they refuse to sign the bill? Like, I know you mentioned, Gary, that you don't walk away, like, do you just, like, if they won't at all, like, doesn't it usually come out for you, like,
But I think having this conversation now and deciding how we want to address it will help you with that decision if, when it gets there. In other words, I think you should say, if someone's not good to me, I'm not going to now, and I am willing to walk away. Well, then you'll know when you're in that position. It's like the role playing and the scripts and everything else. I feel like when someone tries to tell you they're going to get 4% commission in your listing house, if you've never thought about it.
That's right. That's not my
So it's the same thing, I think. you start thinking about it, you want to address it. But yeah, now I would walk away if they're like me or saying, I'd like to just want to call the agent off. Well, even then, I might still reach out. But keep in mind, I try to put myself in their shoes. I'm not, I know that I'm that you first meeting, and nothing to do with you, it's just me, I like to know people first. So I kind of tell them this is how it usually works, with the expectations. But I also think that it makes us look professional. It makes us look like they're a screwy doctor's office. They, you know, you go sit down and there's all kinds of things to fill out. We discuss insurance, how we get paid, what's the process gonna look like? You know, because none of us say my doctor is so professional that we expected. He wanted to have that conversation up front on how he's getting paid. And we all think, okay, this is smart, you know, it just makes sense. So I think if they talk with you, any of us, and you sit down and you have, here's the process, here are my expectations, here's a buyer broker agreement here. And then they go to an open house and they come to me and I say, well, yeah, I'll call you, so fine, or you call me, if you see a house that you want, I think they're probably more likely to say, wow, I like that person that was thorough, professional, talk about the expectations. I don't think that person walked away saying, why is Desmond asking me? What's going over all of these forms? Why is he asking this, this, and this? I think they're saying this is a complicated process. I was already nervous about buying a home. I don't know what's going on. I think the idea that someone's explaining everything to me and putting it in writing and making sure we're all on the same page up front. That's not the case. I think you want to be. See, now here we're with 10 different buyers and just don't have time. You could walk away, but I still think you give them space and explain it, revisit it. And
This
then,
is like not necessarily doesn't have to take place, but with him, they kind of watch you in, so that's why you're trying to make sure.
I'm still working without that agreement. That's just. a good
You,
practice.
you can't list the house without it, but yeah.
Yes.
But with a buyer, I mean, the idea is, sometimes clients feel like, if I got 5 agents all working for me, I'm getting 500% up. Because you're working for me 100%, it's like most agents though, it's like, well, if I'm only getting maybe a lukewarm commitment from you, why am I gonna give you all of my effort? So if you get somebody super dedicated to you, you're gonna get better service. But again, this is where now we get into scripting, this is a very long answer to Stacy's awful question. What's the scripting around it? The scripting I like best is like, hey, this is just an agreement that shows we are dedicated to working with each other until you reach your goal of finding your new, or whatever happens. Because it's saying, hey, this isn't just a one-way commitment, this is a two-way commitment. I'm gonna help you find this, but you're dedicating, like, you're gonna have open, honest communication. But educate, because a lot of times buyers, and we've seen so many deals get lost. Because they don't understand we can help them with the new build. They don't understand we can help them with for sale by owners. So you gotta educate your buyers in that same conversation. If there is something you want to buy, I'm your first call, no matter expired, for sale by owner, new build, existing home, lake home, commercial, whatever it happens to be, I'm your first call.
So we can't get upset if they walk into an open house. Or they call us off the side and take a look at the house and then call us later and say, well, I didn't understand how this worked. Guess what? I found a house. I said it was your fault too. I'm right off Brian. I told him on the side. So how does this work? What do we do now? None of us can get upset. We didn't explain all of this.
Yeah, so it's all about communication. Back wall, communication. You need to educate them. And they need to feel like they can talk to you. And if they're not getting they need to feel comfortable enough talking to you. But again, we work in this world all the time. So to James's point, they don't necessarily understand it. You may talk to somebody that's not done a deal in 30 years. The world's completely different than it was 30 years ago in real estate. Educate them, don't just assume that they know. So does that help a little bit?
Yes.
So it's up to you. Hey, if you're getting 2.5%, you want to chase that extra 0.5%. I generally don't. Like I said, Reagan Stackhouse never got flat. As soon as that agreement was slid in front of her clients, she was explaining, hey, if the commission on our buy side, I'll tell you ahead of time, hey, it's 2.25%. So if we pursue this, you're going to owe me 0.75%. Or whatever it is. I don't. She did, never got kicked out. Teach her. But it technically by the agreement, it's saying, I'm getting 3% representing you. So it's either all coming from the seller, some from the seller, some from you. All for you, doesn't matter. Think through that. How do you want that to be? And then just, I like the script of, hey, we're gonna spend a lot of time working together, make sure we achieve this goal of finding you a new home or so, whatever it happens to be. And this just ensures that we're gonna be dedicated to working with each other.
You can always like especially like if something goes wrong with the deal, you can always take that back, right? I mean, like you have that extra 5% or well, 0.5%. Like let's just say they run into a snag or something like that. You could always, in a sense, kind of give it back, the discount there.
We could, yeah. I mean, everything's negotiable. I mean, until we're at a closing table and the numbers are finalized, everything's negotiable. But prepare for the situation you want and educate them for that. And then if you're doing what you say, then you're benefiting your clients. And then I did share the example from, I can't remember what was the guy's name? The buyer agency agreement. He was mad that he signed it. Claims he didn't know about it. I was sharing your example. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. But I was just, we're talking about like,
It was a year and a half ago.
oh, it was, man, it seems like forever. But we use the example of like, there should be a conversation in the first meeting or two. Sign it outside of any other documents because, and he said, she said, so whatever, but he felt like it was in the middle of things. Signed it without realizing, because buyers they'll literally just sit there. They're not reading a single word. Again, that's on them.
And the crazy thing about it is half of the land would have been wetland.
Right.
It would have been.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and there's always multiple parts to every story, so, but this is actually a great segue into growing your database. So we're gonna be having lots of meetings with buyers and sellers, so when we're meeting with buyers as we grow our database. Have these out there, again, please read the entire thing, it's not very long. But even the purchase agreement, I should be able to come to you and be like, hey, what's this inspection section really say? You should be able to, in layman terms, explain these. If you feel like you're struggling with that, please come to Lee's contracts classes. Every week is a different topic. And it repeats every month. Understand all the contracts. These are the lifeline of our business. And how you can really write a very compelling offer. By understanding all of these. And same thing with the listing contracts. Same thing with fire agency agreement, first right contingencies, whatever happens to be.
A time period, is there a time frame on the agency agreement?
You put it in there, I recommend a year.
Okay.
Some buyers aren't gonna be okay with it. I always try for a year on listing contracts and fire agency agreements. And hopefully we don't get to that point. And if they're not okay with it, like I just re-signed, extended a listing of mine, she only wants to do 3 months at a chunk. And she is upfront, with, I want to evaluate your performance and decide, and it's a unique property, it's a commercial package of properties down in Peru. So it's gonna take a very unique buyer, and she understands that. But she's like, I wanna make sure you're marketing it, you're staying in communicate, basically, are you giving the service I expect? And every 3 months, we'll evaluate. Fair enough. I'm not scared of that. We just extended for the first time this past weekend. Yeah, I'm not scared of that conversation. Some agents would be, there's a lot of lazy agents. And that's what,
Often, like, do you, get in contact with her, you talk to her like weekly or?
yeah, just, hey, no showings this week, but hey, here's what I'm doing. And if I run ads, I should send a copy of the ad to her so she knows. And, you know, we don't have a LoopNet account, but she's like, on this extensions. So Crexy and LoopNet are like the two commercial MLSs. Some of them will use, but like B&D across the street, they won't log into our MLS that we use. They use Crexy and LoopNet are their two main. So, hey, can we add LoopNet into, well, our office doesn't have an account, let me see what it takes. Found out it's free, so let's do it. So we went ahead, created an account, built the listing, she's ecstatic, will it do anything? Doesn't matter, she's happy. Took our admin about an hour to build the listing, create the account. That's all it took, made her happy, it's all like she's being heard. But this is, going to your question, I love that question, how often do you talk? This should be something you guys are talking about in your meetings with your clients. What's the expectation of communication? Is it a call, a text? Nobody's gonna check email, I wouldn't even put that as an option, but if you want to, feel free. But then, how often should they be expecting to hear from you? Are there hours that they can call you? So if you're like, if 8 o'clock rolls around, I gotta get the kids to bed, we're doing story time. Nothing's happening tonight, feel free to text me or email me, but you know, I don't accept calls after 8 o'clock. Don't be afraid to draw those boundaries. This job can eat you up 24/7 if you like, because there's people that work third shift. So they might, 2 o'clock in the mornings, their lunch hour. They might feel like in their mind, just like, your job. Gotcha. But that's where you gotta understand those buyers and sellers too. What are their, not to pick up, you work third shift, right? So I'm not gonna call you at 9 AM, because you're just, like, that's your like 8 PM. 9 PM. So I don't wanna call, but if I don't ask the question, I'm gonna irritate the ever, you know what, out there. This guy won't stop calling me at 8:30 in the morning. So I need to call you, I don't know what hours, but let's say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because now she's up and like, this is her day, it's just getting started. You gotta have these open, honest conversations with each other and get to understand your clients. What do they do for fun? What do they do for a living? What's their family situation? This is how you get to know your clients at a deep level. So as you're growing your database, it's not just putting names in a place. Understand what their kids like to do for fun. Do they go to the lakes? Do they like to travel? Why this is so important, as you're making conversations with people, you're able to talk about stuff besides, hey, do you want to buy a house today? You know, they're huge football fans. Man, the Super Bowl last night is killer. Everybody thought it was gonna be a blowout. Probably one of the top 3 Super Bowls of all time. Talk about it. Especially if you didn't have a vested interest in either team, which I think most people here probably could have cared less on either team. But it's nice to know that Fort Wayne guy got a Super Bowl, right? So.
Brian, do you have like a form when you have like a buyer or just, you know, like, that's nice to call?
Yeah, so if you look in designs. Yep, so in designs. There's, on the buyer section, there's a whole buyer presentation, under listing, there's a whole listing presentation, that's like the third or fourth sheet in there. I will say that it has way more questions than I asked, but understand that whole design is editable. So you can change it however you want. But in there, remember, depends on your clients. So some of the questions get into what kind of siding do you want on your house, which for the average buyer, they won't care. You have $1 million buyer, they probably will care very much what the outside house is. So that's where you got, I like that these are customizable. Because it depends on your client, but inside of there, some of the first questions that ask is what's the best time of day? What preferred method of contact do you want? How often do you want to hear from me? And things like that. Those should be the first questions we come across.
So before you get into those questions, do you ask, pre-approvals or funding?
Yeah, so leading into like that actual sit-down meeting, you should have had all those questions.
Okay.
100%, because if they haven't yet, and I just went through this with a buyer of mine. And like, hey, before we get really going on this, have you guys got pre-approved? And I knew they were pre-approved before, but it's been like a year and a half ago when we first started talking. And unfortunately, as soon as we started looking, she lost her job. So then their financial situation all changed. Well, now they're ready to look at houses again. I'm like, hey, before we get your hopes up again, because they had a house they wanted. And then she went into work one day and they're like, see ya. And then we had to get out of that deal and all that stuff. So I was like, before we get your hopes up and all this, we need to really talk to the lender. So, you know, if these were new clients, I'd have that frank conversation with them. But I will, if it's a brand new client, let's say, because you've been running a lot of online leads. So if I were you, leads are coming in, they want to see a house. I wouldn't shy away from showing them a house or two first. Because sometimes people don't want to come to the office, do a formal sit down. They just want to go see houses. They're so excited. They want to go see a house right now. Great, let's do it. I'll show them a house or two. And I'll be prepared to have that consultation kind of on the fly and then ask those questions. But there's gonna be buyers you come across are like, we can't do anything for at least 6 months. Then you can kind of take a little bit more deliberate pace. Have those meetings. And whether it's buyers or sellers, we should really be prepared to give presentations 4 different ways. One is the traditional, you bring them in the office or a coffee shop, you do a formal sit down. Zoom would be the second one. So online. We have a lot of people relocating to Fort Wayne. So you may not have the people in town yet. They may be still in Florida or wherever. Third would be in person. They really want to go see a house right now. They're not wanting to talk about any of this stuff. They just want to go see a house. Again, my mentality is I'll go meet them for a house or two. Because if I irritate them, I know they're just gonna call somebody else. I'll go show them the house. So I'll take my time. Go show them the house, get to know them and have these conversations. And then lastly, it'd be just over the phone. They're travel all the time and that's the best way to meet. So whether it's buyers or sellers, you gotta be prepared to kind of have these conversations those 4 different ways. Sellers are going to usually be a little bit more not as rushed. Unless they found a house which spurred them into buying or into selling, I'm sorry. So one of my last closings of the year last year, the lady moved her timeline up 2.5 years. So she normally lived in a house between 5, 6, 7 years. I can move in the houses, fix them up, sell it. She'd been in the house 2.5, 3 years. It's like a 2 a.m. Zillow session. She's like scrolling. And they knew they wanted to move more close to southern Indiana because their kids and grandkids are down there. Came across this old farmhouse that she fell in love with. Messaged the agent because they didn't have any agents down there. Because again, they're thinking 2, 3, 4 years down the road. Next morning, the agent gets back with them, does a video tour that day. She gets pre-approved really quick. They write an offer, get accepted. Call the agent that they bought the house with here in Fort Wayne, had the house listed 72 hours later. So went from 2, 3, 4 years later to like in the next 72 hours. there's not time for formal sit downs. You know, what I mean, that's why it's so important. You gotta have these presentations ready to go at a moment's notice. All right, so as we get going in today's session, you know, we're doing grow your database. So last week we were talking about generating leads. Talked a lot about your sphere of influence. How many of you actually worked on your sphere of influence in the last week? What are any positives that came out of those really quickly?
My favorite was no one positive. I haven't reached out to more people though. I got a little bit more information from some folks. But it add a lot, add a bit.
Alright. Yeah, those conversations are all about just rebuilding relationships and going from there. So today we're going to get into a lot more about colder leads, so. Is everybody in here using, and you're not on any system yet, we're waiting for, but everybody in here is using Command, yes? Okay. All right, so today's agenda, we're gonna talk about what a smart data bank looks like, building your database, feeding the database, communicating with it, servicing it, and ahas and recaps. So before we get to the next slide, what do we think a smart data bank is?
Smart data bank.
It works for you. So it's doing the stuff for you. It's reminding you to call these people. It's communicating. Smart plans, we were talking about that at the very beginning of this session. Smart plans are the reaching out to them automatically. So we'll get into more of them, but a database that's just old school, like little contact book, that's just a database. But a smart data bank can actually work for you. Your database is your business. Building up the number of names in it and a relationship with those names is really at the very core of what building a real estate business is all about. So this is from the MREA book. And the second part of that statement, and a relationship with those names, is the important part. Putting 5,000 names into a database that you never talk to is just a waste of time. Put 50 names in there and work on them and find closings, and then slowly build it. So you'll hear us talk a lot about what's called a 201. It's actually on Mallory's door. Statistically, if you have 201 or more names in your database that you systematically talk to, you're more than likely to make over $100,000 a year. That's, again, we have 165,000 agents around the world. So we're able to study these things pretty in depth. That's the sweet spot to be able to make 6 figures. We don't need thousands and thousands and thousands of members. That's the mistake people make with their database. Have people you really want to talk to in there. And if not, boot them out. They're just dead weight. They're just, and especially if it's somebody that has bad, you see their name and it just sends you going the wrong direction mentally. There's a term in Bull, I can't remember what they called it, but basically like it'll make you want to just stop with your day. You see their name and you're just like, I just can't. Get them out of it. So database, simply enough, your container, it's where all your people live. You can't have post-it notes and notes in your phone and then names in here and some people in your email and all this stuff. It's got to be one centralized spot. So do you guys remember the difference between leads and contacts? So leads are people that express interest. So they clicked on your ad, but you've not talked to them. So you know nothing about them besides they clicked on your open house ad for 123 Main Street. So now you have the right to contact them because they expressed interest. You're not just cold calling them, which we have agents that do that as well. In a contact, we've had a 2-way conversation with them. So they clicked on the open house ad for 123 Main Street. We've had a nice 2-way conversation with them. So we at least know where this relationship's going. They're going to buy and sell. They're just buying, first-time home buyers. We know enough about them to build a plan of action. There should be a mix of both of these at all times in your business and in your database. Because you should be running ads and reaching out to people, asking for referrals, running ads, hosting open houses. Maybe you decide to do magazine ads, or you go and your cult around and buy billboards, or you're just getting involved in the community, or you're doing events in the community, or whatever it happens to be.
You've been telling me to run ads for a while. I wish I would have listened months ago, but I can see, the goodness that it's done.
Yeah, and again, cold leads, these online leads, it might be 1 in 100 convert. Maybe you only talk to 5 out of those 100 because everybody else goes to. You're doing a couple of things that are bringing a bunch of names that you just kind of got dropped into your database. We gotta work through this. We gotta be okay with that. We gotta be okay if people tell us to go pound sand. Just the name of the game. But again, we have some agents that literally cold call, they just buy dialers and they just sit there and they hit the go button and it just calls random numbers all day long, and they do well doing that. That is not my cup of tea. We have agents that'll go door knock neighborhoods, that's their cup of tea, not mine. Doing social media, staying in touch with my database, past clients, my sphere, that's where a majority of my business comes from. You gotta find what works for you, and then don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but start where it's already comfortable. Get a base of business going, and then we can build from there. So again, get this out of the way. All right, so this is the funnel from the MRA. You're gonna see this pretty much in every Ignite session, especially during the lead generation. But should be the essence of your business. It's not rocket science. Prospect and market. Be bringing people in. Prospecting, these are one-on-one conversations. Marketing, social media ads, open houses, people coming in and stuff, fine. Leads, we've not talked to them, but we've earned the right to. Contacts, we've talked to them. Cultivate, again, that could be 5 days. That could be 5 years, it doesn't matter. This is where, when you get to this stage, you gotta have a good conversation with them to understand what this is gonna look like. Hey, my lease is up in 60 days, I need to find a house, I'm tired of paying rent, great. They're in your active bucket, get out after it, let's go show them some houses. I can't really do anything for 5 years, or 2 years, okay, tell me a little bit about that, why are we thinking 2 years, or whatever happens, we qualify. I just started a new job, was out of work for, a good while, okay, it's probably gonna be 2 years then, because they need 2 years of work history. So we cultivate them. They hear from us about once a month, sometimes automated, sometimes maybe a call or text. Then they close and then notices, goes right back up to it. Once they close, we keep staying in touch with them. Do not forget about that point. That's very important because that's where repeat business comes from. That's where, hey, you need to talk to my agent. They did an amazing job. We got to have that part of the conversation as well.
So let's say you're doing an open house, or doing an open house and they're coming in. Now, before they leave, they say, I tell them, I can show you anything else if this is not one. Oh yeah, we have an agent, but they signed in and everything. Now, like I said, we're not kind of snaking them, but they're in my database. Do you still put them on a smart plan or something like that? Or do you just erase them out already, erase them completely? But they said we have an agent, but.
Good question. So you're doing an open house.
Yeah.
I walk in.
Yep.
I let you know, I do all the things at the very end. I let you know about having an agent. So this is where it ties back to the first part of the conversation. Are you under an agreement?
I don't even ask that because.
But if this comes up at the end, and if you don't feel comfortable, hey, no problem. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, who's your agent?
Okay.
And hey, for some reason, it doesn't work out. I'd love to be your backup agent. We've gotten a lot of clients using that script because they don't feel like you're being slighted.
Yeah.
Okay, if you ever need help, and that agent's not there, not working, they might be working. But what I will do, so her clients walked in, the whole shebang, call her, she's like, hey, Stacy, I know we've never met, Desmond Keller Williams. Your clients, John and Jane, just walked in, the open house I was hosting, seem to have some interest. I try to answer as many questions as possible. Just wanted you to know they're out there and stop by. So if you want to. Now you built a relationship here. She knows she can trust you. So if she ever sees a showing request come through, hey, this is a good deal. I know I can trust him.
Yeah.
3 offers on the table, you're the only one she knows. We've seen, especially the last few years when it was really crazy. Your reputation definitely matters. We saw offers get accepted based purely on the agent's reputation. Like, I know I can trust working with this agent. So many offers were basically like this. There's really no differentiating factor. Dollars were the same, financing. Then it came down to relationship. We talked a lot in our database about relationship with clients. Do not forget about relationships among agents. If you talk to any agent that's done this for, let's say, a couple of years or more, probably at least 2 or 3 agents, if not more, that you see their name or sites. It was a bad deal. There's nothing, again, win-win. There's nothing about it. It's like, you gotta lose for me to win. Or how they do it's just shifty. Yeah, when there's money involved, gotta be careful how much you trust people. But don't forget about that. So in that situation, I would just offer to be backup. It's worked a lot for us. And they know they can trust you. And why I like to ask that question if they bring up an agent, I typically do not ask up front. I will not, but if you bring it up, oh, hey, who are you working with? If they can't think of the name, I'm like. But again, it's just like if you walk on a car lot, hey, I'm just looking, please leave me, kind of thing. So are they just saying that to get you go away? Because most agents make, all right, they're just walking. It's like, you're dead to me. It's like, well, there's an opportunity still here, but you'll be amazed that walk in open houses, don't say you're an agent kind of thing, and just try that script out.
I did that last week too. I took someone to an open house. It was packed, Wednesday too. There were cars in my yard. So like, I might do it this Thursday or something. But anyway, took someone, I took my name tag off. I beat my buyer there. That was tomorrow. I took her out there. It was a house, the agent didn't really talk to me at all. Like, I didn't have my name tag on. I walked in, they said hi, but like, they didn't do what I do. I meet you at the door. I give you the facts.
You'll be amazed how many people do horrible open house. I went in, I think I may have shared this story before. I went into one actually and being sly and taking a picture because she sat on the couch the entire time, her feet kicked up on the ottoman. Because as soon as you walked in the front door, it's like, goes to the living room. And we came in towards the end of the open house and she's on her phone, doing her thing. Hey, we had a busy open house. I don't have any papers. Hopefully you brought it up. Yeah, I did. Thanks. Never asked any questions, never got off the couch, nothing. I don't care if they come in with 5 agents. I'm still gonna do exactly that. That's why we teach that. Go to the door, shake their hand, make them feel welcome. You'll feel some like type of wall up, sir. Just walk in. I got the information on the house and you can tour on the, okay. Then on your way, it's a chance to ask those open-ended questions and start just saying, oh, what caught your eye about the house, just out of curiosity here. What's got you guys thinking about moving?
I was gonna say one thing I noticed that, this impacted was, like, let's just say they do have an agent, that they're working with, and you say like, hey, I would be a backup agent. I typically say, like, I love really what, like, really working with somebody or not.
Mhm.
And that's a good, like, barrier breaker with,
Mhm.
and then actually do it. So like, whether you do it that day, the next day, whether you give them a piece of information, show them a house, send them a house like link, based on the, what they want, then that goes like a long way, because you're responsive. So, and their agent that they might be working with is not responsive.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of agents, I'll just sit back on their hands, and I call it the money phone. They're waiting for the money phone that like, you text me a house, like, oh, I'm gonna show you a house. I didn't look for you. You just were on the system, saw it, texted me, I opened the door for you. I'll toss together probably a half-hearted offer and then get some money. Right? There's a lot of lazy agents, that's about as big of a service as they get. That's why I keep bringing this up. Why do you think there's so many lawsuits about commission going on? Because that's where a majority of agents live. You go, again, love food, so I always compare it to food. You go out and buy a $2 hamburger and it's just all right, but you're not gonna be mad because you paid $2. You went out and spent $25 and it was the same quality. Now you're gonna be a little miffed, right? Because you didn't try. Same thing here. You asked for 6% commission to sell the house, or you're getting 3%. You get no service from your agent. then we need to have a conversation, because we need to provide that level of service to our clients. So command, again, this is where we're gonna get into smart database. Understand, it can do smart plans for you, it's gonna remind you if you do it the right way. Here's what your to-do list is, even tracks your goals for you. Even the database helps, so are we doing good on the information we put in there? 4 laws of the database, super simple, you gotta build it. And feed it every day. So when we get to the end of every Ignite, what do we talk about? Add 10 new people every day to your database. Communicate systematically. So what's your plan? So this is a lead you've never talked to. What's the system to talk to? They're a year out, so they're in the nurture bucket, so they're a year or more out. What's that system look like? They're buying in the next 60 days, what does that system look like? Should have a system around all of these. And we've talked about those a lot in these sessions. So if they're active, they should be getting saved search results from you, where they get automatic emails. You should be in the MLS looking every day for those people and texting them, hey, did you get a chance to see this house? Maybe they got the email, maybe they didn't, maybe they opened it, maybe they didn't, it doesn't matter. You should be looking as well. Educate you on the market. And then if those clients reach out to you about a house, you've already seen it, and at least you got some notification. Maybe they're, a few months out, so they set them up on monthly emails of some type, whether it's a newsletter, if they're sellers, neighborhood nurtures, or whatever it happens to be. And then maybe it's a monthly phone call, put them on those kind of things. A year out, maybe they get your newsletter and then a quarterly phone call. Think through it in those systems, like you got these 3 buckets, 90 days or sooner, 91 days to 1 year, or 1 year and longer. Those are kind of the buckets I recommend you guys having. But build it to what works for you. But either way, whatever bucket, there should be a system of how you're communicating and how often you're communicating. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay. And then service all leads. Again, they may be 5 years out, but if you communicate with them systematically, it doesn't really take time away from you. But when they're ready to buy, you're able to service them really well. So building your database. Seems like all of us in here at least have a good start on this, but this is a never done process. Again, we should be feeding it all the time, tweaking it. Don't be afraid to analyze. Don't be afraid to be brutally honest with yourself. Like, hey, this is going okay, but I feel like this part could be better. So always be looking, is this system actually working? Pretty simple. Minimum should have name, contact information. That does include address if we have it. And then past business records. Hey, when have they worked with you in the past? They bought with me in 2018. The team I'm on, we even have it as far as like tags per year. So we know on average, right around the year 7 mark, people are thinking about selling. So what do you think we do for marketing? Right around year 7, we start filtering by those tags, reaching out to those people to sell. So having those kind of details and things like that are going to be very important. Yeah, right inside command, you can see where the tags are. You can build smart plans. I'll do this automatically or put a reminder. But we use these tags here, and then about once a month, we'll filter by those tags and start reaching out to those people. So right around year 7, they start hearing from us pretty systematic. You need help. Again, today, starting at 12:30, this will be our first one. But we have a command class today at 12:30. First half of these classes, bring all your questions that you need answers to. Doesn't matter the topic. Then we're gonna start today with the most basic functionalities of command. Contacts and things like that, making sure your marketing profile is set up. So as we got into designs that we mentioned earlier, it's gonna pre-populate your headshot, your bio and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of making sure everything's set up to work properly. Because that filters into your smart plans and everything you do marketing wise, social media ads and things like that. But if you ever, So this doesn't show, the top right corner command right next to your name, there's a little question mark. There's something not working properly. You need help on something. Click on that question mark and hit chat with support, and there'll be a little chat bot that opens up. Put in what you're struggling with. And if it's during business hours, there's also opportunity to chat with tech support. If you need something more immediate, reach out to Mallory. She's our local tech person. Get your questions answered. Don't be, this just doesn't work. And just bypass it. Because there may be a glitch in the system they don't know about. Maybe it's, hey, we're doing something slightly wrong, and they'll give you the tip on how to do it correctly. So don't be afraid to click on that question mark icon and take it up. So I'm gonna pause on this screen right here. Do a quick restroom, coffee break, whatever you guys want. I want you to think about ways you're gonna be able to feed your database. I like to do this before we go further in this section. I want to see what kind of ideas you guys have. Now I want to hear some creative ideas now, like, hey, I'm gonna do an open house. We know the basics, run social media ads, you know, do open houses, things like that. What other creative ways can we do this? So this is us putting the names in there. So what's the biggest one that you've used?
So far,
Mhm.
yeah, probably the most names would be like open house. Yeah, plans to do events. Giveaways. For weekend.
When you think about the events, how are we gonna get the actual names? Because they're doing the events are great, the exposure is
Yeah.
great.
Having a giveaway there.
Okay, so actually feeding it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I've asked this, but I can't remember. The open house part of the website, have you actually used it, or do you still have the paper, do you have both?
I have both, and yeah, I would like to use the actual, digital form. I'm sure a lot of it's my own stuff, because I give them the option, and then everyone chooses the paper.
Yeah,
But I really
that's where
like
it's like, yeah,
Desmond had like put the.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna use that
Right.
picture, I
Yeah.
like that.
Right. So that's where it's so important that we're actually putting the names in. Because again, our goal, when we get to the end of these sessions, is adding 10 new names every day. That's 50 people a week. So where are those names coming from? So again, it's gonna be a mix of prospecting and marketing. So again, prospecting, we're doing open houses, meeting them one-on-one. Marketing is that chance. So like Teresa was saying, hey, here's the postcard I'm putting on the bulletin board. That's great. But where that's not putting you in control of the names coming in, that's gonna filter into those 50 you're trying to get every week. So that's why you have that mix of prospecting and marketing. So you're doing whatever it happens to be, bring the names in, it should be mixed. So we got your marketing now, we're gonna do the postcards and the apartments, things like that. So now think about the prospecting part, where are we gonna go actually talk to people face to face, one-on-one?
So
Now we got a nice mix of things going on.
when you speak of open houses, are you saying like, just being an agent on yourself or when you have a buyer?
So posting an open house, so if I had a listing, I don't want to do the open house, I might post on the private page, hey, does somebody want to do an open house this Saturday one? You speak up, we talk, you grab it, awesome. So we're gonna walk through starting an ad for you, and you just go sit at that house for 2 hours. As people come in, sometimes they have an agent, sometimes they don't. It's just a great lead generation tactic. A lot of times that's when people start their search, they're just, you know, and kicking the tires, like, well, this house kind of look cool. Let's go see it. So that story I shared about, that lady moved up to the timeline by years, by just scrolling on Zillow. Same thing with open houses, it might be a nosy neighbor, it might be somebody just a board weekend, they're just out cruising, they come to a house. And then they're, love it. So now you just picked up a buyer. Maybe they have a house to sell, now you've got the buy side and the sell side. So it just spurs, so it just gets you in front of people. They're cold leads, but at least they're interested in real estate one way, shape, or form. So that's kind of the power behind them, is, you know, doing that.
And they might be interviewing you. I have somebody that said, oh, it's a nosy neighbor. Little do they know the nosy neighbor's daughters think about selling the house, so they're thinking about selling, they want to see how you act and answer questions. So everybody that comes in, no matter who it is, you still have to, you know, assume that it's a good lead, might lead to a listing.
And this goes all the way back to what you were just talking about, how many lazy agents there are, you walk in, they barely even look at you. Whatever, happens all these times. That's exactly why you take every lead seriously, don't let them just blow you off. That's where your chance, and we'll go over a lot of scripting, just connecting with people, asking good open-ended questions gets them interested. You're the fifth open house that weekend. Horrible, 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 then they come to yours and they're like, oh. This is nice, it actually seems to. You know, again, who cares when it is? Might be 2 years down the road, the daughter's moving back, but now they feel like they can trust you. The most I've ever done with one family, I've done six, I'm getting ready to do the sixth deal. And I met them at an open house. You never know where these relationships can take you.
You got a sign out there by Gateway still. I could pass it today. I was gonna tell you.
Well, I'm gonna, so. At the intersection?
Illinois, it's one of your.
Oh, Timber Ridge, we close
Yeah,
tomorrow,
Timber
yeah, or Wednesday.
Okay, I was sure.
Yeah.
Sorry. for-
The Gateway one, though, I do still have it out there, so we came up with a rental, this is where again, you gotta think outside the box sometimes. This lady really wants the house, she can't sell her house in Florida, but wants to get up here. So we made a deal, we'll take it off the market, but she's gonna rent it. She's doing her inspection Thursday, though, and she'll move in March first. So I'm gonna wait to take that sign down till we get through the inspection.
Okay.
So we got it off the market right now, but if we have to go back on the market, I don't have to pay to have the sign hauled back out, put back in. So, but yeah, Timber Ridge, hopefully we'll be closing, it's either Wednesday or Thursday, we're waiting.
Cool.
So, but feeding your database, it's vital. Again, goal, 10 people every day, 5 days a week, so 50 new people. There's gonna be some weeks you do an event or a ad or whatever, you add hundreds. Some days you add none, but on average, you should be hitting about 50 people.
You said an event, can you do an example of some type of event?
Like think about Marlene last year did a parade,
Yep, I remember that.
and afterwards she talked to so many people at the event, she got first place. She picked up a ton of names. So we got people that are doing parades, we got people hosting their own events, people doing tables at, let's say like a Busker Fest that they do downtown Fort Wayne. And whatever happens to be, again, pick an event that you enjoy doing. Some people will sponsor like a golf outing and sit on the tee box of the hole because they're sponsoring that hole. You get a chance to meet people out.
I was just gonna say, like, most communities have what they call like first Fridays, first Thursdays, and like, I do one, I don't, but I would do one for it's like $15 instead of $10,000 people. Go through one, like, you get so many people, and it's essentially free, you can like, I remember I was Walmart about like $60 worth of donuts, those kids went bananas, guess who had to come up with parents, and guess who they had to listen to for the like, me, so. That's a really cheap way, I think, and then, I don't know, I think the parades, I think that's Brandon Farrell from the city, you can do those are free usually. To enter, and you just have someone like in the truck, or just get some balloons, and like some yard signs, or some candy out, and people love that, or like a little sticker, like I did. Oh, bottles of water, because it was so hot, so I went to just Walmart, you can do like a big thing, like 40 for like $4. Then I got the waterproof stickers, and they went for free, and like everybody had it, I know, so. Thanks.
So it's a great way to talk to people, but you have to be bold enough to be able to talk to people. How many of you have gone to like Three Rivers or an event like that where you just walk by tables? Just like open houses, they're just sitting there doing that.
Yeah.
You walk up, you grab stuff. You're gonna do an event that has that many people. That's an endurance sport right there. That's a lot of people. I mean, you're running for office, you're talking to 10,000 people over a weekend or a day or whatever.
And it works really well, like, do something useful, right? Like, if I didn't have that water, they're not gonna come over. Like, if I didn't have the donut, or kid like begging them to come get a donut, they're not gonna, like, I wouldn't either. I don't want to talk to you. It's like, I wanna enjoy myself, so do something useful that's not expensive, like, don't waste your money on cruises and like the wrong stuff. If you're gonna buy pens, buy the good ones,
Yep.
because they're gonna go in the trash, just. I would say that.
You could also leverage off somebody else's, like this. I got invited to, it was a radio station, I got invited to do the Three Rivers Festival Parade. I think that was, it wasn't last year, I think it was like the year before, but I just started real estate. And so, and they brought the candy and all that kind of stuff, and I just wore their, t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. And me and my dog, well, I was rolling around on the electric bike, you remember all the electric bike, and my daughter, she was walking around with me passing out candy and stuff like that. But just the fact that people see it, and you post it or it's on the news or whatever, that alone sometimes can draw, people, to you. So,
So think of these things, we talked about a lot of different ideas here, and that's just scraping the tip of the iceberg. When we first started Ignite, I handed out, I can send it to you if you don't have 150 ways to market and prospect. And that's, again, just the tip of the iceberg. Find stuff you enjoy doing to meet people, to connect with people. It does not have to be a torturous sport of like, hey, here's the phone book, best of luck. It does not have to be that way. There's some people that will take that anyway because they excel at it. Great. Find a lane you excel in and do it. We're on prospecting and marketing. We talked about all these, but new, repeat, or referral business. So new, we've never met the person, never transacted, repeat. Hey, bought the house 4 years ago. We're ready for the next step up. Good. If you get in a first-time home buyer market, they buy their first house with you. You do a great job. You're going to sell that house and sell them another house. So on and so forth. All the way up. You're the realtor for life. That alone could be 5, 6, 7 transactions. Well, now when their kids, James talking, maybe they're interviewing because their kid's ready to buy a house. Well, now there's deals. Referrals to their friends and families and coworkers and all this. There's more deals. One family could essentially represent like 10 deals, 20 deals over the span of a lifetime. It's a lot of deals from one lead source. And then referrals. At some point, at least once a year, you should be reaching out to your database, your entire database, and asking for referrals. Don't shy away from asking. Don't do it all the time either. But don't be afraid to ask. We talk about the sphere a lot, and I meant to talk about this last time. But we always think about our sphere as like coworkers and friends, but it can be more than that. It could be business partners. It could be a lot broader than we give it credit for. In that list, in the participant guide from last week, it talked about the restaurants you go to a lot, coffee shops you go to a lot, just people that you're around. Now, the very inner part of your sphere, if you remember the rings, that's going to be your close friends, families, coworkers, things like that. Then as you go out, there's multiple rings. It's where you talk about wearing name tags out in public. Sometimes people will stop you and ask you questions. Now those people are in your sphere if you do it right. So don't think about just your friends and family being your sphere. It can be more than that. Because I know not everybody's from Fort Wayne or Northeastern Indiana. Maybe you're from a different state or whatever happens to be. So that's where you can have these things to grow your sphere. Now, if you remember, we did the sphere exercise last week. I forget, somebody had over $400,000 in GCI in there. Because they had so many people on their phone. Again, those are all people you know well enough to put in your phone. So those are people in your sphere. Book them if you're going to. Testimonials and reviews. When do you think you should be asking for testimonials and reviews?
That would look good.
separate offer.
There's no right or wrong, but that, their mentality that you do it right when they go under contract, now when they close. So that's probably the happiest they'll ever be, so. So there's mentality there, but that is, do not send it to everyone. Google My Business, I don't think lets you review the reviews before they go out. I think every other system pretty much does. And on the new KW sites, you can actually ask for reviews on there too. Well, pick and choose, because there's gonna be clients you may not. Want to look at. So just how they did the deal, you're just like, best of luck to you. I'm good, you know, I got my money for this deal and I'm good. You can use somebody else next time. Should be few and far between, I will say that. But testimonials and then promote it. This is somebody else talking well of you, but you need to promote it. This is free marketing right here.
I just thought of something, that I'm glad you said that, because I actually forgot to do it, but you're not gonna close everybody. And sometimes, like, you might be working with somebody who just can't get over a hump, whether it's financial, like, they just can't get through underwriting or, you know, whatever. But they still may appreciate your services well enough to give you a referral. So I had this one lady, I know Brian know, the order.
Yeah.
She wanted me to drop by, she had to go to work with her, but she has, 2 bags on the door. And, it had like some muffins and stuff like that she baked. I didn't eat it, but. Yeah, she had a little note, and she bought my daughter like a little jewelry treat, you know, stuff like that, just because, you know, of my time, you know, working with her. So that stuff, you know, it goes a long way.
Personal connections. It can't just be transaction. That's not gonna get you good reviews. It's not gonna get you repeat business all that. So, and there's been times I've gone to a listing appointment, I went home and I was like, everything in the wash. It was just like, it felt like there's like fleas jumping all over it, like, from the entrance. But you don't wanna be like, they're like, hey, sit down here. It's like, there you go. Just hope for the best. Yeah,
You don't want that fun.
no,
Get rid of the ice or pieces.
That lady I was talking about with the racist.
You told me about.
yeah.
Yeah. You want to
Yeah, when he told me that story, I was like, this is it. Could run a whole different direction.
Right.
Don't be afraid to provide prompts for like what reviews would look like. Again, don't be afraid to promote them. You could run ads around them too. And this isn't you saying I'm amazing, it's somebody else saying it, and you're just promoting. So aha, so I hope your biggest ones are. We gotta be working on our database all the time. It takes the guesswork out of our business. Who are we talking to? Why are we talking to them? Things like that. How do I get to that important part? Talking to them. This is a pretty apt quote. To succeed at a high level in real estate sales, you must commit to frequent contact with the database with the intent of building close relationships. Again, that's what we've been talking about all last week and all this week. Not just putting names in there, it's building the relationships, get to know them at a deeper level. Could be walking around the house, you see a diploma or a degree or something from the school, you can talk about that. They're wearing a sweatshirt with the team on it, talk about that. Friend them on Facebook, don't be afraid to do that once you build that kind of relationship. And you get to see from the pictures, what do they like to do for fun?
Okay, so now that I see that this quote is from the millionaire real estate agent. Is the sphere, would he be explaining as a model? Not for, not for.
You just started the book? Okay, so, oh yeah, 'cause you got it current. So the whole first half of the book is about your business now. So he talks about leads, listing, and leverage. We always talk about starting with their sphere, because those are people that already know you, trust you, and love you, and want to see you succeed. Then you get to things like open houses, where it's like colder leads, but at least you know they're interested in real estate some way, shape, or form. And then you get to true cold leads, so maybe it's buying online leads, buying a dialer, door knocking, whatever happens to be. We stair step our way because further down that list you go, the harder it is to convert. So if you go door knock a neighborhood, it may be fruitful, but it also may be a lot of knocks before you get to the house. But if you're talking systematically to people, which we're getting into, you're adding them into your database and you're working with there. And then listings, we've already talked about that, where that can be powerful. So that's why that's the second part of it. So we get leads, which hopefully turn into listings. Because with listings, you know, you at least get two deals. You're helping somebody buy a house and you got to sell a house. But hopefully through marketing, you pick up somebody else, maybe you double the listing. Both the buyer just represents one. First time home buyer, they're only buying a house. But if you get both sides, and then leverage, that's what the whole second half of the book's about. Getting your admin in place, a buyer's agent. So if you want to build a really big business, that second half of the book talks about where you can take things. So sphere is where you will start, but in the book, it's just build your database as big as you can and then talk to them. So you can pick up leads from wherever, because again, we got agents that moved here from a different state that don't know anybody here. They have sphere elsewhere, they can get some referral deals, but they gotta work on building a new sphere here. Well, that gets into these activities we're just talking about. How do you meet those people? So don't be afraid to segment your database based on interest, passions, etc. So for instance, you know, VIP, so VIP would be, somebody sends you a ton of referrals. They contact you a lot, they stay in touch, they like to golf. Yeah, this person's a military person, so maybe you reach out to them. Excuse me, on all the military holidays, they're an investor, they like dogs, things like this. Don't be afraid, again, the tags inside command are only for you, your clients do not see them. But this is ways you could talk to your database based on their passions. So if you're gonna do, we talked about events, let's say you're gonna do something for the Humane Society or the shelter. Well, get filtered by animal lovers and send that out directly to them. They like to golf. Maybe you do like a giveaway for a golf pass. And then you reach out to those people. Military holiday rolls around, you reach out to all your military veterans, thank them for their service. That's where you can take this database and communicate with it. But you gotta be able to use those tags to really break it into groups. The idea with tags is in a couple clicks, you can segment your database down exactly who you want to talk to. Again, knowing that your clients don't see them, you can make that work for you. So however your brain segments things, you can do that. And here's an example. So golf, here's a review of a golf course. Maybe you're playing a new course and you want to reach out to them. Hey, I got a chance to play this awesome course. You know, it's about a half hour away, but it's worth the drive. And this is why. Investor. Here's market stats. Again, investors buy based on a business decision, right? It's a profit game too. So maybe you send out monthly stats, property lists, things like that. And for dog owners, say, here's some low cost vaccination things. Hey, I'm doing this fundraiser for the shelter. Do you want to help? Whatever it happens to be. We did have one agent at one point was. So I remember I offered to cover the adoption fee for $100 and reach out to her entire database. That was done in like less than a week. Because again, her market was all over. So animal lovers, they enjoy that, right? So communicating with value. 19th to connect. So these are people you haven't talked to. This is a good plan of action right here. So you do the ads, they come in, work through this until you connect. So your quarterly phone calls, monthly emails. What I would do is I'd probably flip flop those, though, in all honesty. I'd be talking to them at least once a month, if not more often. Then promotional touches, that could be mailers, things like that. And then if you host an annual party or whatever, once you get your business up to that size, and again, you don't have to create the party. You can just host something at another event that's already going on. And invite your entire database to that. But right here in the middle, this is when you connect them and they go from a lead to a contact. So what's the high value touch that's gonna solidify the relationship with that person? And that's gonna be determined by your conversation you have. And then converting them, again, sometimes you need a lot of touches, because maybe they're a year out, maybe they're 5 years out. They're like, hey, in the next 90 days, they're doing something, you won't get through this, you'll have to kind of customize this. Well, let's just say they are a year out. And bi-weekly emails, so that could be newsletters, home searches, things like that. Phone calls, events, get-togethers, and again, promotional stuff. Be the magnet calendar for a local sports team or whatever happens to be. Holiday cards. The idea here is they always hear from you. They will never forget your name. I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's a ridiculous amount of people. 80+% after 2 years of buying the house to get the name of the agent they use. Because they got their commission check and they ran for the place. That probably means even in the process leading up to closing, they weren't doing any of this stuff.
Brian, what do you do for your dad? Like, do you do the Christmas cards and?
Home anniversary cards, Christmas cards, monthly newsletter, with all like the community events going on. And then with investors, like every time we have a property come up that could be investment friendly, they're getting emails from us. And then, like I said, starting around year 7, we start reaching out, like, because we know most people are about to sell. So we'll get them on monthly neighborhood nurtures. Like, hey, here's what's going on in your area. And that could prompt them to sell. So those are what we do on the team I'm on. And then depending on the client, we might do more like birthday touches or things like that. Or if they got kids, we might send them like ice cream cards, like go get ice cream for the kids. Again, just kind of depends on the relationship we have with our clients. Now we get into the smart database. Again, the command app, you can bring them in pretty quickly. Again, if you're not gonna talk to everybody on your phone for business, do not bring them over. They're just dead weight at that point. All right, as we get to the last section, servicing our database. Any questions you guys have, any concerns, any challenges you can foresee for yourself? If you do like an honest assessment of your business.
Yeah.
Your job is to build a community and service the community.
I think it's probably just dedicating time to this, should be balanced.
That's
So busy, you know, like if I don't see it in here, that's what happens. It's not on my calendar.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that's for a lot of people. And he and I were just talking about this as well, and it was one-on-one right before Ignite. It has to be on your schedule. I don't care if it's a half hour. I don't care if it's 6 hours. Have a half hour. Log into command, so your call time. You got a half hour time, 25 minutes of that should not be figuring out who I need to call, so you get one call. You got a half hour call time. You should be able to log into command, go to your task box, and just plow through that list till your 30 minutes is up. It takes the guesswork out. Every time you talk to somebody, add a note, put the next follow-up in and on to the next call you got. Be purposeful, especially if you're, because a lot of our agents are part-time or whatnot. They have other jobs. Be very purposeful about the conversations. You can't just, if you got very limited time to call, be very purposeful about what you're calling for. If you're gonna be calling to shoot the bull with somebody, wait till you have a longer call. Because again, maybe they're 2 years out and you just want to build the relationship. That could be a 30-minute conversation without effort, right? Wait to call those people until maybe the weekend when you got a little bit more time. And have your purposeful conversations in that hour. Has to be on your schedule, timeline. Do not delete it. If something happens and you absolutely have to move it, don't delete it. But you have to be purposeful about what you call people. Utilize smart plans. We talked about it. It might have been right before you arrived. Utilize smart plans. As soon as a lead is contacted, you guys need to be able to, on the fly, again, the 3 buckets, 0 to 90 days, 91 days to a year plus. As soon as you have this conversation, you should be able to place them in one of those buckets. Then there should be a system behind each of those buckets. How are we gonna communicate? We went through some plans here, but always think about these things. If you were the client, what would you expect based on these levels? Write it down. Don't deviate from that system.
You mentioned you do a newsletter. I think that's a really good idea. Do you write it yourself? Do you do like a template from? Calvert?
There's a template in designs that you can do. I have somebody else write it up for you.
What do you put, like, just?
I put all my listings in there. I put community events. And then at the very bottom, there's links to go like search for different areas that we serve. But yeah, I do not write it. That's not my strong suit.
I just started doing one and I really like just a few days before it goes out, I'll just look up different news articles about anything housing related.
Mhm.
And then I just throw that in there. So a lot of my people like are in K County, but not all of them. So I don't want to make it just
Yeah.
specific to that.
So again, it's $50 a month for somebody to do it. Have I gotten a deal from it? Yeah. But they see my name once a month pop up in emails. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I always look at it this way. So let's say I send these out for 5 years. And I get one deal from it. That's about $2,500 or $2,000 in expenses, but $6,500 in commission. So I still make 2 to 1, you know what I mean? So when you do these things, you gotta be in it for the long game, especially if it's a minimal investment of $50 a month like that. Let it run. Don't look at it like I spent $50, got nothing. Okay, well, we're trying to make, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a deal here. But again, that's where, I know a lot of you weren't here yet. Agent financial that we just did and business planning clinic in October that we did this past year. Build a budget. How much are you willing to spend per month? And stick to the budget. Track in your database where are the people coming from. So you have that initial conversation with them. Maybe you got multiple things happening at once, so you want to qualify where did they come from. If you're only running one ad and they came in, you know exactly where it came from. But if you got multiple things out there, qualify because you want to track your lead sources. And these 5 things I'm doing, these 2 just don't seem to be doing much. Do I need to retool it? Do I just need to cut bait and run? And take those dollars and maybe spend in the top 3? Or do I add in another thing for 4 and 5? Don't be afraid to track your lead sources. You really should be. Again, you're business owners. You should be knowing what business is coming. But then that allows you to track what was the most profitable marketing and prospecting you did and things like that. Well, if you communicate systematically, you're building a community. Think back to those tags you were just looking, like you can make them a sub-community based on their preferences, their interests and things like that. So I've seen agents do things like, they know their database, a lot of people like concerts, so they'll do concert ticket giveaways and things like that. They like, share and do this. Seen people rent out theaters to do events, or rent out the entire room, buy all the tickets and then give them out to their clients. Somebody did last year at the drive-in theater. They offered to buy X amount of tickets and they had a section cordoned off at the drive-in theater. They invited their dad to take first come, first served, like who wants the tickets. So it's a great way where you get a little bit of time to talk to your people. But again, we talked about events, that's an endurance game because you're talking. Well, if you do movies, talk to them for a little bit and then the movie does this.
I know for Valentine's Day, I don't know if Brandon Carroll's on the call, but he did a giveaway. It was like a box of ranch chocolate. And then like an gift card to a good restaurant, and you had to like share it with someone, and he got like 125 shares.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm sure, I don't know what a big amount of the restaurants for, but I think that hits thousands. Have you ever looked at insights on that? Like,
Yeah. Because if that's how many shares, you know, a lot more people saw it, you know. Now we've communicated, so we put them in our database. Communicated with them. Now we gotta service them. This is where the money happens. Plan for a lead follow-up program to leverage every opportunity. This is what I was talking to you. As soon as you talk to them, they need to go to 1 of 3 buckets. And maybe that moves. This is where talking to them consistently. You're gonna be, they're not here anymore. Positivity, something happened good. They're moving from more than a year out to like, now they're only 4 months. They got a bonus at work they weren't expecting, so now the down payment's easier, whatever happens to be. But if you don't keep talking to them, stuff like that happens, are they gonna call you? Probably not. They're gonna pop into one of those open houses we're talking about, connect with that agent, you're just not gonna be at the right place at the right time. You did all this work. As soon as you talk to somebody, you should be creating opportunities. You don't have to connect with the DocuSign yet, but this will give you a good feel for what's my pipeline. Then we gotta cut off here on the far right side, I'll tell you what your predicted and probable income is. So you know roughly how much money's coming. You forget to put a task in, but you have an opportunity and you're reviewing your opportunities. That's your chance to, oh man, I forgot. Then put it, I haven't talked to Dylan in like a month, but here's this opportunity and I got a chance to call him. So that, you know, I was busy, we were talking, I forgot to put in that update. We're human, we're gonna make mistakes like that, right? If you have that in there, that's almost like a safety net as well.
It's about command, question about command, you just remind me about it. I have a footer on my email address for like the Keller Williams, my picture on that pops up, so when I send an email through command, it does not pop up. It never does that? See, I don't like that.
Are you gonna be here for a Miles class at 12:30?
Yeah. So I.
Well, it's on Zoom too. You can
Yeah,
hop on
I'll be
when
here,
you're
I'm
done.
gonna go get a salad.
Okay, that works. I would ask, as far as I know, I've never seen a spot to put it.
Okay.
I've heard from multiple people, including our assistant on the team we're on, because we're going into command now. She is.
And I think that was
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I get it, like, because a very basic email just says Desmond
Yeah.
first. Yes.
I
This looks
put my
way
email
better.
address. That's
So I get it. As far as I know, I've not seen, I've looked in there.
fine.
Mal may know the answer. If she doesn't, we can, again, that question mark icon top right corner, you can ask that. And then ideas.kw.com, and then in that question mark, there's any ideas you guys have. Again, this is an evolving ecosystem. I cannot stress this enough. If you want to see something in command, please post the idea. Because they review that list once a month. Whatever gets the most requests, they start at the top of that list and start working their way down. So they want this to work for you. So please, if that's not working, get in, all of you, get in there and just be like, hey, I want to see this. Enough people across the country and across the company request it. That's gonna be top priority for the next month. As Mike Hillary puts it, they're past the fix it phase. They've been in the development phase for about a year now. So any of those ideas, it'll never be done. Command as an ecosystem will never be done. We'll keep adding to it and making it. Because the market and the business is always shifting. So please, if that doesn't work, just go in there. And again, we already talked about this. Every Monday at 12:30, we're essentially doing an in-person version of the 66 day challenge. That was requested a lot from some of our agents, like, yeah, the videos are great, but I got questions. Can't ask Marty Miller, you know what I mean? Like, so those videos are great. But every Monday, 12:30, Zoom or in person. We're gonna be talking about a topic. First half is gonna be Q&A. Any questions about command, challenges, things like that you got? Bring it. We'll talk about them. And then the second half of the class will all be about the topic of whatever we're covering. That. All right. So as we wrap up, Aha's questions, concerns.
I got to start implementing my smart plan now, I'm getting more people, and so I wasn't able to do so slow at first, I was able to keep up with it myself. Now I see, well, I've always seen it, but now I can see, I need to go get the Twilio account
And,
and plug the smart plan. Automate.
and remember, when you do Twilio, there is an opt-out option. Don't be afraid when people opt out. Flip side of that, make that message, it's gotta be valuable. Can't be very generic of like, hey, are you ready to buy a house? It's gotta be more pointed.
If they do opt out from that, I would say to contact them with other departments.
I do not feel comfortable answering that question.
Okay,
I would ask them.
okay.
To me, I would say yes, because it's come from a different phone number, but legally I do not.
Okay.
So I would ask them.
Okay. And it said something about like prefer an email instead or
Let me see if
something.
he's in there, because that's.
No, we just walked out, I see, it. We just-
Probably in lunchtime.
I had my open house, I was doing, I had to sign in on the computer with that little box, I ran into that problem this week.
Yeah.
I always pre-check it, but this guy, he walked up, he must uncheck it, he was like, it's not submitted. I'm like, oh, yeah, check that box right there, I hit submit, he goes, no, I didn't want to do that. I just want to reach out to you. So, that-
Okay. Yeah, you gotta be careful. So let me see if parents are gonna keep, maybe I'll answer.
Sleep out. Oh.
No, no.
Yeah, well, so, take me a 2 hour. It'll be all right.
So we're just gonna talk about the innovation.
Right, so,
Doesn't talk about the toilet, just like. And I would get the page, opt-out option. So Stacy asked a question. I get into her database, she sends me a Twilio message, I hit stop. Can she use another methodology to reach out? Or since they opted out, is it as like, cause I know there's all the lawsuits about contacting and all this stuff. so-
Yeah, let me look into that because I mean, it's a valid question. I mean, typically I put some in a smart plan. It's a combination of email, text and phone calls. And there might be some other tasks in there, but we're talking about communicating with somebody who has, registered for a do not call list, or they specifically ask you to stop communicating with them. So, I don't know if I would think they're separate, like email and texting or phone call, but definitely if they, 'cause actually I had this happen recently where we all get it, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're in real estate, so everybody's offering us insurance and all that good stuff. So, but I had somebody, reach out to me via text. And I said, stop, and they didn't. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna report them to the FTC. So did you know there's like a direct number, like you can text to the FTC to report somebody? Yeah, there is. And it's like a 4-digit, I didn't know it till I Googled it. But I did it, and when I went to FTC's website, it's if they're communicating with you via a wireless device, a phone number, either phone or text, saying stop or unsubscribe from one means you don't call them or text them. But email would be, I mean, yeah, so you guys are asking though is, can I keep continuing attempting to communicate with them in a different way? And, I don't wanna say yes to email, but I do it. I say that out loud.
It's only being reported.
Because it's on a smart plan, so if they unsubscribe from the text and say stop, then I believe it, does it command automatically stop the smart plan?
That's, I don't know, that's one of the questions, and my other thought was, the Twilio number, you said stop from, but my cell phone number, you did not say stop from.
Yeah, my cell phone number, I don't.
So now you're
think
getting all
it's
these.
stop from.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, where does the line stop?
I would say, just be respectful, you know,
It's true.
yeah, be respectful.
And insurance guys, on the right there, say, well, my phone, the insurance guys,
Oh, man, yeah.
When you say stop from one number, 5 minutes later, you get one from a different number. Like you said, stop from this number, but that's where I was also thinking about, it's like, You said stop from this number, but not this number.
I think you're instigating a situation if you continue to reach out to them with different numbers.
Sure. Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah. So I hope that is.
Yeah, I think that's the smartest plan, like, they've already said no, I mean, the chance of you converting them,
Yeah.
it's gonna be slim to none, and then annoying them is probably not help, so that'd be, I guess. I don't know, I just thought it was a good question, I just want,
Yeah,
and,
I'll tell you, one of my smart plans, though, that I'm getting a lot of engagement from, is I asked them right up front, hey, what's your preferred method of communication? Is it call, text, or email? And they'll still say stop and it subscribes them, or they'll reply and let you know. Or still, it's one of the three options. You're either gonna get ghosted or you get a response, but I've been surprised how many people have replied back saying call or email versus the text. Yeah, it's surprising, right? But I mean, if I, everybody's on that and I get 5 responses and 3 of them will actually email, then maybe they're just trying to shuffle me to their email.
but they're responding, so.
They're responding, that's engagement.
Is there a way to find out what demographic that's coming from? You know what I mean? Like age,
Oh, yeah, not really. Yeah, not just from their phone number, but that would be interesting. Yeah, because, to your point, I can call my kids over and over and over again and get nothing. But as soon as I text them, it's like, I can see the little dot there. They're thinking about something.
All right, guys, well, thank you very much. So databases, Sphere, Open House, whatever it is, you gotta build it, gotta feed it, and then talk to it.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep, so if you guys have any questions, let us know. Again, 12:30 Mallory will be in here, Zoom or in person doing main Q&A. And teaching basic marketing profile stuff, making sure your system's set up.